"I am flying from Boston to Heathrow in June," a friend announced. It was significantly cheaper as a return than a one-way, so he intends to forget about the westbound leg. But, he adds, "I have heard a lot about passengers being penalized for failing to use all the sectors on their tickets. As I appear to fall into this category, what risks do I need to be aware of? Let's start with why a return trip could ever be cheaper than a one-way. In the bad old days before low-cost airlines, carriers sought to differentiate between travelers who had little choice but to fly, mainly people on business, and discretionary leisure passengers who could be enticed on board only by cheap fares. Just about every carrier in Europe deemed that any passenger who was flying only one way was probably not paying for his or her ticket. The company would be picking up the tab. So the lowest prices were made available only to people who bought return flights and stayed away over a Saturday night, with the presumption that business travelers would always want to be home for the weekend. Related slideshow, incredible aerial photos of the world provided by photo services. Autumn is the best time to visit the European country. The leaves turn yellow, red and brown before slowly falling off their branches. The patterned landscapes show the vivid colors of fields around Toledo. In 1986, the Spanish city was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Located on Iceland's south coast, the spectacular waterfall drops around 200 feet (60 meters). There is a hidden path behind the waterfall that allows the visitor to enjoy a 360-degree view of the fall. One of the most famous natural attractions of Ireland, the cliffs reach about 702 feet (214 meters) over the Atlantic Ocean at their highest point. One of the most visited sites in the world, the Lotus Temple was designed by architect Fariborz Saba and opened to the public in 1986. Open to all religions and cultures, the temple is spread over 26 acres with pools and gardens. It is one of Washington's most serene wonders, formed due to glacial floods that roughed up the region's terrain, leaving a layer of fertile sediment. The region is perfect for agriculture and production of mainly wheat and legumes. The river flows down from Mount Kenya to water the dry plains, stretching east from Kenya's Great Rift Valley. At the banks of the river are several wildlife reserves such as Samburu National Reserve and Buffalo Springs National Reserve. The Okavango River flows southeastward for 1,000 miles (1,600 kilometers) from Angola toward the Kalahari Desert in Botswana. It serves as a life support system for a wide array of wildlife. Airlines sought to extract as much as they could from the company that was funding the trip. Many firms were complicit victims, prepared to pay a one-way fare well in excess of the cost of the cheapest return. In Europe, the budget airlines, led by EasyJet, overturned this absurdity by pricing each flight as an individual purchase, and setting the return fare as the sum of the two legs. Yet across the Atlantic, where there is far less low-cost competition, legacy carriers still do what they can to extract the maximum from business travelers, who should really know better. Most airlines persist in the practice of charging much more for a one-way flight than a return that happens to include a Saturday night. With some apparently prepared to pay, who can blame them? Canny passengers buy a return and throw away the return half, though technically this is breaching the rules. Every airline has buried in its terms and conditions the insistence that all flights in an itinerary must be taken. British Airways, for example, insists where you change your travel without our agreement and the price for the resulting transportation you intend to undertake is greater than the price originally paid, you will be requested to pay the difference in price. This rule is frequently invoked when the passenger misses the first leg of the trip and tries to join the second. Airlines are keen to avoid tariff abuse by, for example, travelers who see that a Dublin-London-New York trip costs far less than London-New York alone. In this situation, the airline simply tells the passenger their whole trip is cancelled, and pockets the cash, perhaps refunding some of the tax element. Support free-thinking journalism and subscribe to Independent Minds. When the traveler buys a return ticket but flies only the outbound segment, as my friend would be doing, technically he is liable to pay the difference in price between a return and a one-way. But I am unaware of any airline pursuing them for the difference in fare. That, I suspect, is because they would not relish the attendant publicity, drawing travelers' attention to a pricing policy that many would deem unfair as well as unusual. Meanwhile, I look forward to the day when pressure from airlines such as Norwegian encourages the legacy carriers to reduce their one-way fares to sensible levels.